The night of March 3, 2026 will be remembered as the moment Iran's ballistic missile program ceased to exist. 4 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers lifted off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, beginning a mission that would cover 6,800 nautical miles to reach the heart of Iran's buried military infrastructure. For 2 decades, Iran had poured resources into constructing a labyrinth of underground facilities, reinforced concrete bunkers, hardened steel blast doors, command centers carved into mountain rock, and launch platforms concealed beneath layers of earth and stone, some reaching depths of 200 feet below the surface. Iranian military planners had built their entire strategic deterrence around a single conviction: that depth meant survival. That conviction would prove fatal. 5 critical miscalculations brought the entire program down. American bunker-busting technology had long surpassed anything Iran's engineers had accounted for. Each B-2 was capable of carrying nearly 40,000 pounds of precision-guided ordnance. The bombers were already airborne before Iranian intelligence had any opportunity to detect movement. President Trump authorized not a partial strike, but the complete annihilation of Iran's missile production capacity. And perhaps most fundamentally, Iranian planners had assumed there existed some depth beyond American reach. There was none. 72 hours before the first bomb fell, senior commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps gathered at IRGC Aerospace Force headquarters to review the status of an accelerated missile production agenda. Over the preceding 18 months, Iran had constructed an underground network that included solid fuel missile assembly lines, warhead integration chambers, launch command centers buried beneath mountain ranges, and bunkers shielded by 15 feet of reinforced steel and concrete. The total capital investment stood at $4.3 billion across 23 primary sites, collectively producing 47 medium and long-range missile systems every month. IRGC Commander Amir Ali Hajizadeh personally oversaw the program and delivered his assessment with confidence. Prior American strikes had targeted only surface-level infrastructure, and the new underground architecture was impenetrable. Iranian engineers had calculated that the GBU-31 could penetrate no more than 15 feet of concrete, and accordingly built rooftops 20 feet thick. Their arithmetic was sound. Their assumptions about American weapons were not. By March 1, 2026, the final installation had come online. Iran now commanded 23 fully operational underground missile complexes spread across Isfahan, Semnan, and Qom provinces, running 3 continuous shifts around the clock at maximum production capacity. Iranian leadership was confident that no American intelligence apparatus could locate facilities buried so deep. They were wrong on every count. On the morning of February 28th, the National Security Council convened at the White House. Intelligence agencies presented President Trump with a comprehensive target package unlike anything previously assembled. NRO satellites combined with ground-penetrating radar and thermal signature mapping had located all 23 underground sites with precision. U.S. Cyber Command had intercepted Iranian communications, confirming production schedules and current weapons inventories. The intelligence picture was flawless. Every bunker mapped, every tunnel entrance cataloged, every ventilation shaft pinpointed, every command node precisely located. When Trump asked whether total destruction was achievable, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth confirmed that B-2s armed with GBU-31 bunker penetrators could guarantee complete elimination. Authorization was granted immediately. Operation Dagger Strike went active. At Whiteman Air Force Base, 4 B-2A Spirit aircraft received their mission orders. Tail numbers 82-1066, Spirit of America, 82-1068, Spirit of New York, 88-0329, Spirit of Georgia, and 93-10086, Spirit of Pennsylvania, were each loaded with 16 GBU-31 V3/B JDAM munitions, fitted with BLU-109 hardened steel casings, weapons engineered specifically to defeat deep underground structures. The combined payload across all 4 aircraft totaled 64 precision-guided bunker hunters. Crew briefings commenced on March 2nd at 1400 hours. The mission profile called for a non-stop round trip from Missouri to Iran and back, spanning 30 hours of continuous flight with multiple aerial refueling operations over the Atlantic and Mediterranean. Strike time was set for 0417 on March 4th, local Iranian time. Simultaneously, U.S. Strategic Command would direct submarine-launched Tomahawk missiles against petroleum infrastructure, while the Israeli Air Force would conduct parallel strikes against nuclear research installations. 3 nations, 1 synchronized operation, 1 outcome, total erasure. At 23:47 on March 3, all 4 B-2s rolled down the runway. Iran had 29 hours remaining. By 00:15, the bombers had entered international airspace. Flying at 40,000 feet with a radar cross-section no larger than a small bird, they were completely invisible to Iranian air defense networks. The first aerial refueling took place over the Atlantic, with KC-46 Pegasus tankers launched from Lagos Air Base in the Azores, completing the transfer without incident. A second refueling was conducted south of Cyprus using tankers based out of Rota, Spain. With fuel tanks topped to capacity, the B-2s tracked northeast over Iraqi airspace and into Iranian territory. Iranian air defense systems remained entirely unaware. 9 minutes ahead of schedule, at 0417, all 4 aircraft opened their weapons bays simultaneously. 64 bombs were released in a single coordinated sequence. 12 GBU-31s struck the underground production facility at Natanz. The first penetrated 18 feet of reinforced concrete before detonating inside the main assembly hall, generating temperatures of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit and a concussive shockwave that caused catastrophic structural collapse. Subsequent bombs followed in 4-second intervals until the entire complex was entombed beneath the rubble of its own construction. At Semnan, 8 2,000-pound penetrators drove through mountain rock and 20 feet of concrete overhead before igniting the solid missile propellant stored within, triggering secondary explosions that brought the tunnel network down entirely. The warhead integration facility at Isfahan was struck by 10 GBU-31s and subsequently flooded when the blasts ruptured underground water tables, submerging the complex. The Missile Command and Control Center at Qom was obliterated by 8 penetrators, leaving personnel trapped inside collapsed corridors. Within 14 minutes, 23 separate underground installations had been wiped from existence. When Iranian air defenses finally registered the attack at 0431, the B-2s had already exited Iranian airspace and were heading west. While the bombers were erasing the underground network, coordinated American and Israeli strikes were simultaneously dismantling what remained of Iran's strategic capacity. The USS Florida, an SSGN-class submarine operating in the Gulf of Oman, launched 48 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles against 2 targets, the Karg Island crude oil export terminal and the underground fuel storage complex at Bandar Abbas. The Karg Island strike rendered the terminal non-operational, eliminating approximately $4.2 billion in monthly export revenue. At Bandar Abbas, 60% of fuel reserves were destroyed, leaving the Iranian Navy effectively stranded in port. 18 Israeli F-35I Adir aircraft, meanwhile, struck the Iraq heavy water reactor, the Isfahan uranium conversion facility, and the Parchin military research complex. A combined total of 244 precision weapons were expended in this phase alone, bringing Iran's nuclear research infrastructure and warhead design capability to a permanent end. The entire operation lasted 37 minutes, from first weapon release to last impact. The B-2 package completed its 3rd refueling over the Mediterranean and turned for home. Crossing over Gibraltar, the flight element made radio contact with the tower and received a straightforward welcome back. At 05:52 on the morning of March 5th, all 4 aircraft touched down in Missouri. Total mission duration, 30 hours and 5 minutes. Total distance traveled, 13,600 nautical miles. The accounting was stark. 23 underground facilities destroyed, oil export capacity reduced to 0, nuclear infrastructure eliminated, approximately 400 enemy casualties confirmed. Allied losses, 0 aircraft, 0 personnel. March 4, 2026 was the day Iran's underground missile program ended. Facilities can be buried 200 feet down and encased in 20 feet of reinforced concrete, and it will not matter. There is no depth on Earth that places a target beyond the reach of a B-2 Spirit, carrying precision bunker-penetrating munitions. At the end of a 30-hour flight, everything underground becomes a grave.